What is that? It is the prince. He is coming.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to our Werewolf stream. This is going to be an interesting one because it just seems as though nobody can quite do this concept justice, and we're going to chat about why, at least based on our research, which has been the extensive amount of four movies. So we're going to discuss each of them. But first, let me bring in my guests.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Alrighty. And Drake.
He's going right for the crew!
Hello, Drake.
And our third and final guest.
This cannot be.
I have been very insulted last night.
Oh.
Yeah, we will get to. I have reserved a portion where we get to rant about the Wolfman, but first we will. We did not watch a very good movie last night, but we have to suffer for our craft.
Yes, we do.
It isn't real work if we didn't suffer for it.
Yeah. So the basic setup that we're going to be going with today is we're going to be going with our intro. We're going to go with kind of talking about the movies we watched this week, and we're going to talk uses and stories, why they so often conflict with vampires, and kind of the inherent story weaknesses of a werewolf that you need to overcome as a writer if you so choose to put them in there. And then we'll move to Q&A. Sound simple enough?
Yep. Sounds good to me.
You know, I would say that at least the good thing is that there hasn't been a werewolf Twilight yet.
Oh, good God. Don't give them ideas. Wolf, don't.
Well, technically they already did it, so it doesn't matter. Werewolves are in Twilight, so...
But it's not a werewolf-centric movie.
True.
Nah, for that one you gotta wait for Science and Sorcery.
Yeah, so kind of a base understanding of werewolves. Werewolves are kind of just in the usual thing of kind of everywhere an opposite thing. The Wolfman or werewolf is essentially the opposite of a vampire, where it's very much more the almost blue collar versus white collar type thing, where the werewolves are the blue collar, dudes out in the forest, not terribly intelligent, versus the vampire, which is a lot more sophisticated and is very cultured and mostly eats on high society, where the werewolf kind of eats on pretty much just people out in the countryside that aren't well protected.
They don't really discriminate.
Whereas werewolves have the brawn to get things done that the vampires typically don't. A werewolf tends to outmuscle a vampire, but the vampire tends to outthink him.
Yeah. Because most people seem to think of them as mindless beasts, and for the most part, that's what they are when they transform.
Unless, syndrome.
Yeah. Unless, of course, they have the ability to control their transformation, because then
they are still intelligent, and they still remain intelligent and in control.
Yep. It's more fun if they're in control too.
Yeah, I think the part and another thing is like if they're in control, Nihilus Nihilum, if you want to come on, if you got some stuff to say about werewolves, just tell me and I'll be able to bring you on. Oh, dang it. Oh. Okay. All right. Just shoot me, just at me and I'll bring you in. But we have I think that one of the things about werewolf is I think that it is more fun when they're in control, partially because you can get more characterization out of it. Another thing is if they're not in control, you have to establish the rules of, okay, what makes this guy transform? Often that's full moon, but that comes with a lot of pacing problems that you need to overcome.
I guess the idea you could do is that they can transform, or depending on they only transform at night, but depending upon the position on the moon, may vary how powerful they'll be. Full moons at their strongest, in your position will be vary.
Mm-hmm.
That's certainly another way to do it.
Mm-hmm. Generally, their weaknesses are like full moon is kind of like the only time when they are able to transform. Pretty much like there's a thing called mountain ash. Basically, like it's I don't know, I can't remember where exactly like it originated from, but I've seen it in places like Teen Wolf and a few other places where the mountain, like the ash tree on the mountain, is able to keep the werewolf out or magical creatures out. So
might more have to do with the tree than the wolf.
Possibly, yeah. That something like about the tree is sacred or something. Probably because it's like some kind of druidish reference.
Then there's silver.
Yeah, which is pretty much the main weakness of a werewolf. Unless it is silver, or unless it's decapitation, you ain't gonna kill that thing. It's gonna heal pretty quickly.
So I'm nice knowing you.
Yeah. So, in terms of what we were able to watch, we watched Underworld, Rise of the Lycans, Van Helsing, and The Wolfman 2010. So, in each of them, werewolves are kind of used very differently. With Underworld, it's very much the werewolves are antagonists, but then there's a twist midway through that, it's actually the
Neph,
the werewolves weren't so bad after all, and it's mainly the vampires that are the douches in the situation. Then Underworld Rise of the Lycans very much doubles down on this and kind of just shows more of like why the vampires are horrible. Then Helsing is basically like just werewolf as minion versus and then a twist at the end where a werewolf is used to kill Dracula. And it's just like, okay, interesting choice. And then the Wolfman is very much like the typical like once a month werewolf is just beast and torture protagonist type thing. So
unfortunately, Neph's gone, so I'll have to wait for her to get. It won't take us that long.
Okay, so with our friend, with Underworld, you aren't there for this, but Wolf, but Drake, how would you describe how werewolves are generally utilized within the movie Underworld?
In Underworld 1, they're sort of like a logistical faction. It's like you have the vampires on one side, the werewolves on the other, and theoretically it's to defeat them, and they were both going after a singular goal that was mutually exclusive to either.
Mm-hmm. And it's pretty much like the kind of like the extinction of one will lead to kind of the ascension of the other.
Yeah, it's a turf war, basically.
Mm-hmm.
where the implication is heavily that it's a turf war and that whoever wins gets to eat the people.
Yeah. And the main, like, the thrust of the thing seems to be the love story between Celine and Michael, the hybrid guy. The thing that seems to be the case here is the fact that the werewolf is not the werewolves aren't really like totally fleshed out throughout the course of the movie. Or at least like they aren't focused upon as much as say the vampires are.
Well, most of them aren't.
Yeah, we do have Lucian, who's kind of framed as the antagonist for most of the movie, but then but Celine is the main character. So the werewolves are kind of like it's a faction, and there isn't really like a downside to being a werewolf other than silver. And in some cases, silver is utilized to like just you can't even like Lucian, for example, like they shoot him up with silver, but he's able to push it out of his body.
With the implication that he's like really old, special, and powerful. So it's not like anybody could do that.
Yeah, he's kind of he's the oldest one that has a lot of like abilities that aren't necessarily like normal for his kind.
Rank and file abilities.
Mm-hmm. And very much like they don't often, and you kind of see in Underworld where they use a kind of a different technique, like they actually have the werewolves like using guns frequently, and it often ends up in a gunfight. Because the werewolves don't often transform, and so instead they will just like shoot a bunch of UV bullets at the vampire. It's very much like a fun, dumb action movie with a little bit of like good characterization. Like I think that Lucian and Victor are pretty much the best written characters in the movie. And unfortunately, like the main character is somewhat like bland. She's not bad necessarily. It's just she's just not. She doesn't have a lot of personality.
It's almost a crime drama movie. If you look at these as just criminal families and just took out all the vampire and werewolf shenanigans, then the movie would largely still function.
I would concur with that. Ah, lovely.
About that, what did I miss?
We're just chatting about. Oh, yeah, we're just chatting about Underworld and just how it kind of mechanically works.
Anyway, Neph's back. Yay.
Yeah, I'm back. Yay. Hello, everyone. Sorry about that. My internet is being very screwy. So if I disappear again, that's why.
Yeah, very tismy. Very tismy.
Very tismy.
Hopefully you don't by the time we hit Wolfman.
Yes, because I want to rant a little bit about that.
We'll get to it later. Just hold on, chat. You're going to hear something very interesting when we get to Wolfman.
But yeah, especially if I'm still around. Okay, so what has been said so far?
It's kind of just how this is basically a crime drama movie rather than a horror movie, and it would kind of very much change little about the story, or should that happen.
Yeah. The romance kind of fell flat, but
yeah, It's better than
was
Twilight,
fine because everything else was
at least pretty good.
Big Brown. Yes, I seem to be. I seem to be. So, yeah, but all in all, this movie is well enough put together that the romance falling flat doesn't really take away anything from the movie.
And it's kind of like, I think like one of the things, the werewolves are in this kind of are just utilized as like just it's a fact, their culture rather than like, and it's kind of more of a pack mentality as opposed to a what is it? As opposed to like the usual where it's like an individual. Twilight kind of utilizes this where instead of like just a lone wolf on its own you can't. You have a pack. But I think one of the things about it is the action is good enough, is pretty good, and that's kind of the main selling point is the fun action more than anything else.
Yeah.
There are a few jump scares, but oh, go for it.
Oh, well, yeah. One thing I've noticed is that werewolves work better if there are more of them around than just one. If there are packs instead of individuals, I find it works better. Because then, when they're human, they can play off each other. Instead of just being this yeah. God, I hate that movie.
We'll get to it.
Yeah, we'll get to it.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
But I'm agreeing.
Yeah. But the next one.
Go ahead.
Yeah, go for it. Yeah, go for it.
All
yeah,
right.
tell your thoughts and then we'll move on.
Okay. What would you say is a good definition of nepotism? Because I'm writing one up for our meme.
When Neph is having problems.
When Neph stops in the middle of a sentence for an that is a nepotism.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh. That's Wolf going wah for Neph. Yes, with a very cute moose. Because the boy moose go wah. Antlers. Wah.
Anyway.
But kind of through most of it, the werewolf are kind of the antagonist / an obstacle that needs to be overcome, or at least like a faction in the shadows with Michael and Celine caught in the middle of the two factions. However, with Rise of the Lycans, they are the protagonists of the story. They are the ones pushing the plot, since this is essentially them breaking out of their captivity and their slavery in order to say, yeah, that's the main thing that makes this different than its predecessor.
The romance is done better, but it still falls kind of flat.
So possibly that could just be us.
Yeah, possibly.
Honestly, I think the part of it is just I think a lot of it is that Michael Sheen and Rona Mitra are better actors than Kate Beckinsale and Scott Speedman, and they have better chemistry.
Yeah, they do.
There's more time devoted to like them as a couple
instead of just kidnapper and kidnappee.
Yeah. main thing that I think that makes this one work a lot better than I think that it works actually better than the first one because the plot is more solid.
Mm-hmm.
And it has a clear more clear and clear structure as opposed to kind of Underworld, which is kind of a more haphazard, I guess, structure where it's kind of okay,
I just made it.
But I think the main character actually has something to lose, it seems like, as well, and there are consequences for actions.
With the slight problem I had with it, and that it fell prey to the thing that every sequel falls prey to by necessity. The fact that if you're even remotely familiar with the plot of the Underworld movies, you know exactly what's going to happen. So if you're going to this wondering what's going to happen, you're not going to get anything out of this.
No, you're not. You need to watch with someone who has seen the movies, or at least knows the basic plot, even if they haven't seen it.
Yeah, because here's the thing: I was the one person that I did not see Underworld. So when it came out, Rise of Lycans, I was like, it was all right.
Rise of the Lycans was the last one I remember seeing in theaters.
There are 5 Underworld movies, and Underworld and Rise of the Lycans are the best of the movies, based on popular consensus.
Rise of the Lycans had a little too much blood in it for me, but there was enough other stuff that I could overlook that.
And it didn't have enough blood for me.
Honestly, there wasn't enough.
It's like when we were watching it, I described it as a date night movie because it felt like such a compromise. And it basically, the plot was very unsubtly about boyfriend and girlfriend opposed by girlfriend's uptight dad, and so they try to kill him. How much of a romance fantasy is that?
Yeah.
Well, no, it was more like boyfriend, girlfriend. Yeah, it was more like Romeo and Juliet with vampires and werewolves.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it felt like to me.
You're not wrong.
It's a vehicle for boyfriends everywhere to get laid that night. Don't tell me you weren't thinking it.
Well, it's kind of like it has something for a lot of people. Like it has the it's got action for the dudes and romance for the girls, though I imagine they will cry their eyes out when Sonya dies.
Spoilers.
But then again,
I don't care. This is full spoilers. This is full spoilers for all of the movies we're discussing. So if
besides, you're not missing anything with Wolfman.
It's more of a joke. Like I said, prequels are spoilers.
And then there are girls like me who are here more for the action than the romance.
Yeah.
And then we get this weird scene where
they're having sex half hanging off a cliff.
Yeah.
That was weird.
Like Sonya's riding him, and then his top half of his body's hanging off the cliff. I'm like sex position that will destroy his dick.
I was thinking his waist as well.
Yeah.
You gotta have a lot of body strength to be able to do that.
And I'm surprised. I would be surprised if he wouldn't be able to stand straight again.
It scenes like that remind me why One Punch Man is a virgin, because he can reach escape velocity.
Well, imagine he's pressed once, and the girl either gets shot up to the atmosphere or just
splits in half.
No wonder he tries.
Looks like we found another weakness for vampires in this series.
Kisho's like, I could have sworn there was 3.
Yeah, so I wasn't the only one who thought that then.
Who thought what?
That there were only 3 Underworld movies. Because after Rise of the Lycans, the marketing just dove, or maybe I just stopped paying attention to where it was marketed.
Maybe.
So it wasn't just me.
Yeah. Well, it's just like there was a large gap of the movies in between that didn't help things.
And from what I've heard, the other 2 movies were like massive shovelware, so it's not like you're missing anything.
You're correct, sir.
I love that clip.
Good timing.
Yeah. Uh-oh, Dunn muted himself.
Hopefully he doesn't die.
No, it just did something. Oh wow. It actually is okay.
Yay!
Yay!
It
We've
didn't.
mastered the art of doing what everybody else does.
Yeah, it
Not
didn't
dying.
commit seppuku. Yeah, it didn't commit seppuku. Great.
But I was. Darts to adorn wings.
The Underworld movies were by far my favorite movies to watch this week. And I say that only because my internet crapped out at the very beginning of Van Helsing and didn't come back until the credits.
Like almost
Which is
exactly
that,
the
the next
credit.
one to talk about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, I think that's Van Helsing.
Yeah,
Yep.
Van Helsing's the next one.
Yeah, and we'll save the rant on the Wolfman for the end. Because this is a bad one. Well, this one, because Wolfman was bad, but at least Van Helsing was fun. Van Helsing is basically, what if all 3 of the classic monster movie monsters,
Werewolf, Vampire, and
Yeah.
Frankenstein.
were all in the same movie?
Also, we got a small appearance from Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde.
Yeah.
I saw that, but then that's when my internet died.
Yeah.
It was the most ambitious crossover in history in about 2006 or something.
Yeah.
This film was dumb, but it was fun dumb.
Yeah.
It's like you could do not do a drinking game where you take a shot every time somebody says a comic book one-liner. You will not get drunk. You will drown.
Wait, now, go.
Dunn's going for it.
Oh. Yeah.
Bye.
Yeah, 1 second. Allow me to find it.
Be dead! We would have alcohol poisoning within the first 5 fucking minutes!
Yeah, that's
Pretty
how.
much. Pretty
That-
much.
It's very fun. Just don't expect a whole lot of sustenance.
Substance.
It's kind
yeah.
of like the Michael Bay Transformer movies where it's just dumb action and fun to watch, but
It's
not
what the
much.
Michael Bay Transformers movies should have been.
Just like not
Mhm.
insulting, just dumb.
It's like changing things because it's cool, for God's sakes.
Yeah. It's kind of like, well,
I still want to
why not?
I still want to strangle him for disregarding lore.
Yeah, there's some
For
screwy
the
bit.
second most head-tilting revelation about Van Helsing's nature in this series.
Yeah, it
He's
was yeah, he's apparently the left hand of God, the Archangel Gabriel.
What?
Yeah, this thing was heavily on sequelbation, as Dunn put it.
Yeah.
It never got one.
Yeah.
No.
Box office bomb.
Yeah.
Actually, let me look at the exact numbers.
Which
Yeah.
is a shame because it would have made an amazing comic book. I thought it was a comic book movie for a while, but apparently it was cinematic first.
Actually, it actually made twice over its budget.
Oh, hell yeah. That's what I'm talking about.
So it broke even, barely.
Yeah.
Barely broke even.
Yeah, its budget was $160 million and over 300, and it made over $300.2 million. So the reason why it may have just been about, it barely made it, but all we know is that it was pretty much like it was heavily criticized.
And I think that partially it's like if it were coming out now, I think that people would give it more of a pass, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah, now that our senses have been dulled.
Yeah, since Marvel is kind of like Marvel movies are good mostly, I guess. Yeah.
Good mostly, I guess. That is an excellent description of the Marvel movies.
Yeah. Marvel movies are very they pretty much established a formula that are sticking with it, and it's worked for them.
Yeah, a lot of people like it makes them a lot of money, partially because like I think they just know how to satisfy their audience is the main thing.
There's something for
It's about execution. It doesn't matter if you're using the same formula over and over again. If you can do it well, people will put up with it for a little while, and then Endgame happens, and then, okay, I'm done. Now I no longer have an excuse to watch this shit.
Yeah, all that. The only reason why anyone's sticking around is because Tony.
Yeah, I would concur. And now it's kind of
Tony is now gone as of Endgame, so
and Cap, and might as well Hulk, and
Gamora,
and the Guardians.
Yeah, Hulk and Thor Hulk has been Bruce and Hulk, they've been sidelined to all hell because, well, as is stated, they want to write Dr. Jekyll. They have Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, but they only want to write Hyde, and they aren't even doing him right.
Speaking of which,
yeah, he shows up very briefly in this movie.
Yeah, very briefly. It starts off with a jump scare.
Yeah, where it's just Mr. Hyde shows up and he like decides to try and kill
Van Helsing.
It's a very early action scene.
Yeah, but now
it was pretty
the worst movies we can get. Good times. Yeah. Well, that was when dumb movies were still fun to watch.
Yeah, now it's the dumb movies are horrifically panderous to the wrong people.
I disagree. It's like even back then, there were some really terrible comic book movies. There was a comic book movie ghetto for a long time. Just ask Daredevil.
That Daredevil's bad. Daredevil's really bad.
Yeah, and now comic book, and it's like honestly, if Van Helsing came out now, we probably would have seen a sequel soon.
It's like the only thing people remember about Daredevil is the "Bring Me to Life" music video.
Yeah.
The song that launched 1,000 AMVs.
Wake me up inside.
It's such a cliche.
Oh my god, yeah, it is.
Actually,
and I think I may have understated 1,000.
I think somebody made like a fan trailer using that for Underworld, and that's actually the first trailer I ever watched for that movie. But yeah, Van Helsing, it's kind of dumb fun. I think the werewolves in that one is basically they're initially used as basically Dracula's minion. That's just a mindless dog going after that he just points and says kill, pretty much.
He's the enforcer.
Yeah.
Also, Frankenstein is overly designed.
Yeah, the Frankenstein monster is very much an over-designed mess, especially with the bulbs in his chest and on his head, like with electricity flickering. It's cool because it's like in camera and it's physical, but the issue is it just kind of looks like it just looks like a mess.
Honestly, everybody's kind of over-designed in this movie. Look at what Kate Beckinsale is wearing in that poster.
At least she doesn't fall into the modern strong female character trope. Like she gets.
Oh God, I hate the modern strong female character trope. I hate it so much.
Because it's not a strong female character trope, it's an entitled female character trope.
Yeah.
Also,
That's-
No one likes an entitled bitch.
But we are going way off topic, so.
Okay,
yeah.
yeah.
also fair mirrors in this movie, and my God, his character is Q. Without,
Basically, yeah. It's kind
except-
of, and also,
except lacking in a lot of the charm.
He's the
And-
dorky sidekick.
yeah, and Van Helsing is basically playing Wolverine without the claws in a lot of ways. Where basically
and then he gets claws.
He's lived for a long ass time. He doesn't remember who he is, and somebody manages to know his past.
and he's working for a secret organization that works to kill monsters, or at least works to rehabilitate monsters.
If it's possible.
Charles Calkins. Only simps look entitled bitches. Just saying.
Van Helsing is very much like it's the actionized sequel that doesn't really have a prequel. It's
Yeah,
So,
like it took all these things from different medias and then it just upped their testosterone by a factor of 10.
From what little I did see of the movie, it was fun, even if it was just dumb.
yeah.
There's like a lot of dumb moments. Like there's this entire moment where plot armor just saves characters.
Yeah,
You
like
can clearly tell
yeah,
it.
yeah. Me and Neph, I'll watch it with you sometime, Neph.
Yeah,
so that
thank
can
you.
watch it.
Yeah.
There's this entire point where Kate Beckinsale's character falls off a roof and then hits her onto a tree and then keeps falling off the tree, keeps hitting it. And then she's like, I'm fine.
Oh
Yeah.
god, that's so dumb.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
it kind of is.
It's
yeah.
super stupid, and you can clearly tell that the only reason she's living is because plot happens, and she needs to live at least until the end. Because, Hugh Jackman plays a character, and nearly every character he plays has a love interest that dies.
Alrighty. Well, now we get to kind of the fun one where we get to kind of. I think like it's most like I think the consensus that we're getting from this is that werewolves don't really have very many good movies, like officially good movies.
And they certainly don't work on their own. They need something else to bounce off of.
Unless they're schlock, like
on a team.
apparently there's a movie called Wolf Cop where this cop turns into a werewolf every once in a while, and it's a schlocky exploitation movie.
Maybe we should have watched that then.
Well, I don't know. We'll watch that. Okay, we'll watch that for a commentary, but it's kind of just like it's like Room bad. Like it just
Which means
strange.
that it's already better than the next one we're going to be talking about.
Which
Yeah.
can't even muster the effort to be room bad.
Yeah.
It's like, I wonder how you think we're going to rant about this, because it's basically just eating a tub of lard.
All right. Okay, everyone, here's something interesting. During our commentary, guess how long it took us to get through this film? And nobody, just give them a couple of minutes to guess. And trust me, we really much want that number of hours back. All right. Can anyone guess how long it took us? Anyone?
That's not reacting.
That or
That is slow. We got a huge lag lead.
yeah. By the time of comments, we got to give it a few streamers to pick it up.
Anyway, let's keep going.
Anyway,
Yeah, the
okay.
wolf. This movie very much demonstrates the fact that it is difficult to do Wolfman films.
I was offended throughout this entire film.
Yeah, there's a lot of problems with this movie.
I don't like the Harry Potter werewolves, but I have to say I hate these ones more. They
That's
don't
all.
look good. They don't
Nerdy.
look good either.
Oh my God! Look, Nick Brown got it. Yes, it didn't take us over 3 hours. It took us 3 hours.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
It was really like we had to pause frequently, just kind of just chat because it was so boring.
This film is 1 hour 52 minutes, and the last 2 minutes are
No,
credits.
not 52, 54.
The last 2 are credits.
Well, yeah, okay.
That's it all. Around the hour mark, the film just loses its shit. So much happens that it just breaks. It just doesn't make any sense. And then you're confused about what the hell even happened.
Yeah, it goes for like a 30-second fever dream and expects you to like put up with it. It's really just it does nothing. You don't care about it anymore.
The 30-second fever dream feels like it takes several minutes.
The pacing of this film is so bad because, especially the latter
full moon with no preparation in between.
And that's it all.
Yeah.
The big twist at the end is that the father was a werewolf all along.
Oh, and guess how werewolves get their curse removed? That's a stupid plot point.
Yeah.
That confused me to no end, and I asked questions about that multiple times through our watch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Somebody guess.
It's certainly not part of the original lore, but
Yeah. Yeah, where it's like the Wolfman has to be killed by a person he loves in order for his soul to reach heaven or something. Or just to be saved, I guess.
Yep.
Which makes absolutely no sense whatsoever.
And it sounds like it's not clarifying. Like, what do you mean by love? Does it have to can it be familial love? Does it have to be just love, or does it have to, or can it just be narcissistic love?
Well,
yeah, it just doesn't make any sense.
The thing is, according to the movie, it doesn't matter.
According to the movie, nothing matters.
Either way, you got shot.
Yeah, you did. You dodged a bullet, Nick. You did.
Yeah,
I won
honestly,
3 hours back.
Well,
So-
You dodged a boring bullet and caught a stupid bullet. So.
So,
yeah, I would.
no matter which way you try it, you still got shot.
I think. I think definitely, I would agree that Percy Jackson, not to kind of just head this tangent off. Like, yeah, Percy Jackson is definitely more entertaining than this movie. At least that movie has like some dumb pills and just weird stuff with Greek mythology that weren't in the book. But the main problem with the Wolfman is that it's kind of the inherent problem of most werewolf movies that decide to do the
full moon period.
Yeah, the full moon period. Because the full moon period essentially makes it so that the you're on a ticking clock, but it's on a slow ass clock.
That's more of a pacing issue, and this movie's pacing was god awful. If you have downtime, use it for something actually relevant. When you have the time where he's going to be a human for 29 days, use that to learn something about his character, something about what he wants, something about why it would be a bad thing if he dies.
Use it to build the romance between him and his love interest. Don't just skip the months. Please don't just skip the months.
And we get any mind effie part comes around when he gets into the asylum.
Oh yeah, where the real villains of the entire movie are the ancient psychiatric psych ward system, which doesn't exist anymore. So what is the point?
And that's not all. It's like I was very tripped out when he went into the crypts because I was like, what the F is even happening?
Oh, at the crypts, I think I have the explanation. Basically, that was his dad's seat that he locks himself in order to keep himself from going mad and killing people.
Or he used to.
Yeah, or he used to. And then he decides, oh, you know what? I like running around as a werewolf. I like being an animal.
You know what would be a great way to stop yourself from going berserk as a werewolf? Chinese finger trap.
And even funnier, that just might actually work.
You know what? You're right. You're not wrong. But yeah, I think like the problem is the characters are not very engaging. Like they don't really have like much in the way of development, and they don't really do very much in terms of like just the plot. Like it just seems like he just kind of mooches around from one place to the other, wolfs out, and then abruptly like the pacing goes back to dirt slow.
Such a waste of Hugo Weaving.
Agreed.
Now,
Why you done my Agent Smith? Why you done Elrond so dirty?
that's not all. Because at first we thought this movie was a psychological horror, and then it turned out that it was actually just a thriller.
It was a psychiatric horror.
Help me! Oh.
Pretty much.
Oh, this film made me want to go to a psychiatric.
Yeah, nah, too harsh. But yeah, it kind of displays, at least to me, the fact that like you can't really do werewolf movie that just has the werewolf, or at least like if you're going to do a werewolf story, you're going to have to use the werewolf in kind of X out the full moon, or just try and have some other like just I guess either just have two werewolf transformations where one is kind of the first one is kind of like, and then for most of the movie it's preparation, and then at the end you have an extended werewolf sequence, as opposed to this movie where there's multiple werewolf transformations. And
yeah, but then you just have a small kaiju movie.
Yeah. That seems to be the main problem. Oh, hi, Wolvie.
Hi, Wolfie! Yes, you came to the werewolf talk, where we talk about why most those werewolf movies don't get it right sometimes.
Or at least don't get it immediately.
Yeah.
Like when Van Helsing got it right by just making their werewolves smashy things.
Or you could have gone the way of Underworld, where they're just wolves all the time with the first generation.
All I got out of that was wolf, 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 and wolf.
The space wolves are incredibly uninspiring.
I mean, they're not my favorite. I mean, it's like I like them, but I love the Blood Angels more. So because they somehow managed to make me hurt even more.
No, we have not talked about Howling 2. We haven't had the chance. We haven't had the chance to watch that. We just watched a bunch of like werewolf movies. They're kind of more mainstream that include werewolves. That was kind of our thing there.
We were hoping to end Werewolf Week with a bang, and as Dunn said, it actually ended with a fart.
Yeah,
at least you didn't
Very, very wet one.
No. Do not make me watch Twilight. I don't want to. I don't want to come back into the room. No,
I honestly would prefer watching. I honestly would prefer to watch Twilight than the Wolfman. At least Twilight's fun to laugh at.
I want to go back in the room. I don't want to. A nice sparkle.
That's not the worst problem, and you know it.
No, it's not.
It's
like
the
creepy stalkers. I can't read her mind, so I must follow her everywhere.
The problems begin with an F and end with fucking Bella.
Yeah, it's mostly like the problems of Twilight are the characters, not like the vampire lore.
At least it sticks to its own lore.
It's like, what if you wrote a version of Twilight that completely excised Bella's entire role in the plot, and it was just the werewolves and the vampires doing their werewolf and vampire things? Oh wait, Underworld.
Yeah.
Yeah, basically.
I would rather.
Scooby-Doo. When does Scooby-Doo do werewolves?
Let me see here. Scooby.
Oh, another Scooby-Doo and the Wolfman, where Shaggy turns into a Wolfman. It's basically like the gang goes to
Scooby-Doo and a Reluctant Werewolf.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because the werewolf decided to quit and go on vacation, and so Dracula says, "I need to get a vampire. I need to get a werewolf to be in the race. So here is the wolf wagon. Again, if you win, you get to go back to being a normal guy."
Another one we forgot to do: Wallace and Gromit and the Curse of the Were-Rabbit.
Oh my god! Yep, that would have been fun to watch. Really, really fun.
If only for the janky claymation.
Yeah, here's the thing. I actually watched a bit of Wallace and Gromit, and I was like, man, like this is nice.
And this would be so awesome to watch. Stone.
Mind you, the first episode they go to the moon because there's to find cheese, and guess what? There's cheese on the moon. The moon is made out of cheese.
And the second one is a penguin burglar who steals a pair of Wallace's robot trousers he uses to walk Gromit. And the third one is the cyborg dog is like killing off sheep in order to turn them into his own personal dog food.
And then there's the fourth one is this woman going around murdering famous bakers.
Okay.
Well, bears that make it big. It's like it's very weird because it's like, oh, this is the 12th baker that died this week.
So, kind of now moving into kind of like the kind of let's apply what we've learned section, I guess, for lack of a better word. How do you think, like, based on like our extensive research of 4 movies, how do you think that where like you can like the best use of werewolves as antagonists are? It seems as though a lot of it is kind of using werewolves as minions, either as permanent werewolves or werewolves that can transform at need.
I think the best one that does that is the Underworld movies.
Yeah.
It's like not just specifically with antagonists, but when you're using werewolves, you pretty much have to decide very early on in the concept stages what flavor you're going for. Are you going to fight the instincts, or are you going to embrace the instincts?
And then what happens when you do either of those? Because some stories go, you fight the instincts and keep yourself. And the other way is you don't fight them and you
don't fight them and you turn into an animal forever.
No, actually, you don't fight the wolf. You accept the wolf and it becomes part of you, which allows you to transform whenever you want.
Interesting. I was actually looking this up earlier to remember where I first heard the term lycanthropy from Killer Instinct's Saberwolf of all places, and in the recent remake they did for the Xbox One, they actually have multiple endings, and depending on who you brutality finisher, if you brutality finish different characters, it gives you different endings once you're done. And Saberwolf actually has all 3 endings. Either he gets cured, he remains a wolf, or there's one weird ending where he realizes that he's not a man that got turned into a wolf. He's a wolf that got turned into a guy, and so he just sort of embraces who he is as the wolf.
Huh. That's cool.
Yeah.
That's real cool.
It is.
Crap. What was his name? It's like, depending on the game you're playing, he's either a Baron or a Count. Something von Saberwolf, because of course he is. So very comic booky.
I think like you could have a werewolf as like you could even have like a werewolf antagonist as a schemer type. I think a good example might be of how J.K. Rowling used at least Fenrir Greyback, where he is a psychopath. and he deliberately positions himself as next to his victims so that he can kill them or at least bite them.
I was thinking more like the velociraptors from Jurassic Park. But it's a smart slasher monster.
No, Fenrir Greyback enjoys turning children into werewolves.
Really? I thought that was...
No, that's Remus Lupin's backstory.
Well,
He
I thought it was
turned
like...
when he was just a child by Fenrir Greyback, personally.
Well, to be fair, the man had Fenrir in his name.
Mm-hmm.
How could... how did you not see that coming?
Yeah, it's the old comic book name joke. If your name sounds like anything, you will become a super something.
Mm-hmm.
My name is Remus Lupin. Really, Lupin?
Yeah. But in terms of like we have the wolf. I think like if you use like a Wolfman as kind of like a secret antagonist where the person is a creature and you have the like the ability to say, okay, let's have this thing this person be a mystery, and kind of the protagonists are not like are focused around trying to find the werewolf. They're not focused on like it's not the werewolf itself saying, okay, let's figure out, okay, like how do I like not kill people, because that's not interesting because we know that he's going to kill people. That's just a given. However, if it's a group of people trying to prevent a werewolf from killing people, that's a little bit more interesting, especially if the werewolf is cognizant and he positions himself near somebody who near like his enemies. Like if he's like a political dude, he can like put himself near to somebody and just go werewolf and then turn back into a man and then just not do it. And then
Wolf is sus.
Yeah.
I'm not sus. I swear, I was in electrical.
Yeah. That's kind of an idea that I had that maybe you could do as a werewolf antagonist. What do you think? What do you guys think?
I'd read it.
Yeah. What are some other ideas that...
It sounds like he would need the ability to change back and forth very quickly as a necessity.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah. Or if he's relying on the idea that, oh, he like people don't really believe in werewolves, I suppose.
Yeah.
What if his transformations screw up? What if he doesn't really know how they work, or he gets something out of context and winds up getting screwed up that way? That could really throw a monkey wrench at things.
Yeah, but I think like that would be like if the werewolf is like an antagonist, we kind of need to have him like transform, at least like have like a method of escape where he's like, alrighty, so I'm not going to, and he kind of like figures out like ways of getting away. Like he like maybe if it's in like Paris or something, he can be a just kind of sneak into the catacombs and just hide there and just use scent trails or something to keep himself able to keep himself hidden from the law.
Yeah.
I think the next thing that we can talk about is werewolf as protagonist, and I think that werewolf as protagonist has the most possible pitfalls because you need to be very, very clear about what you want to happen with this. Because if you have a werewolf as protagonist, you can either go the Lucian route or you can go the Talbot route. And the Talbot route is not a good thing.
No, it's not.
The Talbot route has the issue of a kind of bland character who just kind of gets turned into a werewolf. And you have this. You can have mostly because like the werewolf you can very easily fall into the pitfall of, oh dear, like the character is non-proactive is the main problem that you could fall into with a werewolf. Because if you have the full moon, that means that he just kind of can laze around he kind of can be lazy and not figuring things out. That is one problem that could arise. So, but with Lucian, you don't have that problem because he's very, very active in the plot.
Yeah.
And he's got a goal and he carries out said goal. But
even if it kills him in the end.
Yep, even if it kills him in the end.
But yeah, you can probably tell which we like better.
Yeah. It just seems as though we have so much like stuff. Like it has like mostly like werewolf movies are just kind of dumb fun. There's like when they try to like go kind of more psychological and mature, it kind of doesn't really work.
No, you need the dumb fun.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's see.
One thing I find is that especially when the protagonist is a werewolf, it's very easy to get melodramatic about it.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Kariah struggles with this a lot. It's fairly inevitable given how I made the werewolves in his setting. And it's like there are lots of cultural connotations around being what most people would logically conclude is a werewolf in that setting.
Mm-hmm.
Which are more or less fair. And in terms of where he stands on the instinct versus control, he's heavily leaning in the form of control cognitively, because the part of him that can't lean cognitively is the instinct. And ultimately, he decides that it's more of a time for everything under the sun sort of situation. There's a time for brutality, and there's a time for peace.
I think that with a werewolf, like it's easier to write a protagonist when they're able to shift back and forth, or at least like the plot is focused around either them against an antagonist that is up to their power level, or if you have a character that is able to transform back and forth and the character is trying to learn how to control their transformations. Like I'm going to be doing a werewolf type story, but it's going to be slightly different. I'm still working on a lot of the particulars. I'm going to try writing it a little bit more next week since it's spring break. But the main problem that we see is if you aren't able to have the werewolf transform, then the werewolf is going to be static for a lot of it. And you have to have it be in a compressed timeline or make the plot very much about like their internal struggle. That seems to be the main thing that you need to do with a werewolf protagonist. And you need to find creative ways around the full moon thing. Because if you don't figure out a way the full moon, you're going to have limited times when your Wolfman is going to be there.
Yeah.
Just because you have a guy who is a werewolf doesn't necessarily mean that the werewolf has to be an animal. It's like you could do what Earth's Mightiest Heroes does with Hulk and just have Hulk be Hulk. Hulk is actually a character. He's not just Banner's battle mode.
Like, let me see. like what is it? That's a good one. A were person just needs to be. That is a true statement. Yeah, I like that actually. Interesting. I think.
Well, it sounds like to me the best way to work it would be to have the werewolf be a Dr. Jekyll versus Mr. Hyde.
Mm-hmm. Where it's almost like the werewolf is a separate personality. Where it's, I think one example is like the Who here has seen The Mask?
Yes.
I'm familiar with it. I don't think I've seen the movie, but I watched the animated TV show for a bit.
It's very wacky.
Yeah.
You mean the movie Mask or the comic Mask?
I know the Mask comic is apparently like very, very rated R.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's like this guy would be like a sidekick to Dr. Alpha.
Yeah. But yeah, probably. I think one main thing that you can kind of do, you need to focus on you need to make the person as when he is not a werewolf interesting in order to make it so that there's like not so many problems with characterization and pacing. With the Mask, it's basically
Wolfman doesn't work.
Mm-hmm. Because the character in and of itself is not very interesting. He's very passive. He doesn't have a whole lot of agency, and he suffers from like a lot of just indecisiveness, doesn't have a character arc really, and a lot of it is kind of just not focused around like his conflict.
The Mask is actually a really interesting example because of how the rules of the Mask work. In the movie, at least, I'm not sure about how it works in other mediums, but in the movie, the way the Mask works is unleashes sort of like your internal nature, and it amplifies it dramatically, and basically gives it a bunch of fourth wall breaking power. So the idea is that the character that you largely recognize as the Mask is basically just Ipkiss with no self-control, without limit. And that's why in the villain of the movie, he gets the Mask and becomes like this massive super villain. Is because it releases inhibitions. So the idea is that you're learning about his character and like his desires through the Mask.
Uh-huh.
It's sort of in vino veritas, that sort of thing.
So I think is there anything else on like werewolf as protagonists based on like what we've kind of done on our research onto the topic? I think we've covered like pretty exhaustively.
Yeah, I think we have.
Mm-hmm. Then werewolf as obstacles. I think this one is going to be fairly simple. It's basically just there are werewolves in your world and they just do stuff. That's kind of and usually they can either be intelligent werewolves with a society. They can also be werewolves as kind of just pack animals, kind of like how they are in Magic the Gathering, specifically Shadows over Innistrad. Where they're basically organized into what are called howl packs. And that's kind of the main problem. That's kind of the main what is it? Like the main like cultural structure of the werewolves in Innistrad. And there are other places, but yeah. That seems to be the main way of things. Any thoughts on like werewolves as obstacles? It's usually just there is a werewolf, you either need to kill it or work with it, are kind of the thing. Like werewolf, like they actually did this relatively well in Underworld, where initially the werewolves are the bestial werewolves are an obstacle that Lucian needs to overcome, but that he gains their allegiance by saying, "Hey, I'm the pack alpha. You gotta follow me."
Yeah.
Fairly simple, I guess. Then I think like anything to add with that. I think that's pretty much it. With there isn't really much to like when you talk about an obstacle or like just like werewolf as just an animal or side character. Werewolf, I think like a lot of it kind of like stems to it's either how much control do they have over the transformation, how much you want to play with that. How much intelligence do you want them to have when they're in wolf form? Do you want them to just be mindless animals, or do you want them to be a cultural civilization? I suppose that's kind of the main.
I think I prefer them as having their own culture.
An idea. Daimaji has this race of beast humans called werewolves, but they pretty much are very human looking. It's just that you know their traits are werewolf ears and wolf tail. Make werewolves usually can't control their stigmatized.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I do know that a trait of the feature of the werewolves is that that under the moonlight they do get a boost. Last I check. Now let me check. Yeah. Let me look at the only werewolf character. Not the only, but the most involved.
That's how they're used in Van Helsing, exactly.
Beastification. Beastification enables Bet to unleash his wild instinct and power, or in other words, grow stronger by becoming violent. The trigger for a werewolf to beastify is being under moonlight, and all werewolves are known to have the associated skill.
Mm.
Yeah, I think both can be done well.
Yeah.
Life Essentials Wise Wolf.
Mm-hmm.
Let me explain. Please tune in next week so I can give you werewolf cultural lessons. Learn, bigots.
Cultural lessons for make victory wonderful country of werewolves.
Yeah.
For make
And
them
ultimately,
glorious nation of Wolfistan.
We'll be actually demanding a special region in Scandinavia, particularly. I think we'll take Norway.
I think the main thing that we kind of gather, like the werewolf is very much the bestial nature of humanity released, whereas a vampire is more like more controlled, I guess. It's kind of like slobs versus snobs sometimes.
Yes, very much so.
Mm-hmm. And that kind of leads us into I think and a lot of like with a werewolf it's like it's the person who is a kind of usually like they're usually demure people a lot of the time. They're not usually like these how to put it, like alpha people that decide to like wolf out, I suppose. They're usually like people who have kind of been like not terribly like they're kind of meek people that get given power is the main thing that seems to be happening with werewolves.
Remus Lupin would be a good example of that, I believe.
Yeah. that kind of leads us to our next thing. Why are they always kind of against vampires is the question.
Yeah, especially when the first vampire is said to also be the father of the werewolf.
Dracula.
Yeah. And I think that part of it is kind of that interesting dichotomy where they're basically two different kinds of animal. The werewolf is the less sophisticated type of animal, whereas the vampire is very sophisticated and is able to go through high society. Kind of like, think of it like the kind of a high society businessman versus a lumberjack is kind of the usual characterization of werewolves versus vampires in terms of like the cultural dichotomy between them.
Can we not just turn it on its head?
You could feasibly. You could make it. I think part of it is just the bestial nature of a werewolf versus the intelligence of a vampire. Because you could make a vampire a yeah, that's a good question. I think you could. How could you? What would be kind of a way of turning it on his head? I have a couple of ideas, but what are some of your ideas, Neph?
Mine? Well,
yeah.
Why not have it the other way around? Where I know it's the dichotomy of beast versus beast intelligence versus intellect, basically. But vampires come from vampire bats.
Mm-hmm.
So why not just make vampires mindless bloodsuckers? Because wolves are pack animals. They're intelligent.
Mm-hmm.
I'd say an interesting turn on its head would be what if it's more like the two are in alliance with each other rather than against one another?
That's kind of what Van Helsing did, technically, where one is subservient to the other.
Not that kind of alliance. Not master and servants.
Like an Avengers sort of alliance?
More like they just don't bother each other.
You don't bother me, I don't bother you.
Yeah,
oh, here's a thought. Vampires, by their nature, are themed around like parasitic animals. Vampire bats. We brought up mosquitoes in the Bram Stoker video, or were we talking about that? And you know what other animal drinks blood and is highly parasitic?
Leeches.
Fleas.
Fleas. Ooh.
Oh, so plague bearers, essentially.
Yeah.
It's like I'm thinking fleas on a werewolf because werewolf, dog, scratch fleas. And thinking maybe it's like their old primal arch nemesis, and this is their most recent incarnation.
No, we went from fleas and dogs to werewolves and vampires.
Well, that certainly works.
That's an interesting...
Have more natural energy. Vampires represent more of the development of society and technology, despite them being more old-fashioned and Celtic. Yeah, that actually does not really make much sense when you think about it from that perspective.
Yeah. I think that you feasibly could. You would just have to kind of very carefully figure out the perspectives. Mm-hmm. I know in just a book that I wrote that I've never finished, basically the werewolves are up against snakes as opposed to vampires.
Snakes?
Yeah.
Those stippled snake.
Yeah. Yeah, they're snake things. Yeah, they're snake creatures. Creatures like pythons, cobras, etc.
We're mambas.
No, werewolves are not rats.
Well, they could spread fleas at a plague in a lot of places. But I think that an example might be like,
Oh my god, imagine fleas.
you would have to, that could be interesting to do. Somebody make that. Somebody write that book.
Fleas.
Funny story.
Funny story.
A Bug's Life.
Vampire watch over where on full moon nights. Where eat vampire hunters in the day.
Mm-hmm.
That could work.
Werewolves are essentially their it's like the guy who gets groceries for the elderly.
Yeah, it's a scratch your back. I scratch my back. I'll scratch yours.
Yeah, or just have like a married werewolf and vampire couple where.
I imagine it'd be like a very slice of life thing where it's like, honey, there's a vampire hunter at the door. I'm right there.
Yeah. You could either have them be either antagonists or have them be protagonists, either one.
Yeah.
On each side.
Actually,
yeah.
And the werewolf might be the girl in the relationship because, every once in that's actually a really old joke, but
oh, and you know what you can do? You can have her be really shy and demure because it's always the quiet ones.
Yeah, dude.
Oh my god. It's like, oh hey, she seems nice enough. Then they get into bed, it's like, well, that happened.
Yeah.
It's very, very, very old joke.
That would be funny. And, well, maybe she's
like, I'm her bitch.
I might be terrible for saying this, but maybe like she's just kind of demure in a lot of ways, but then like she gets into the sack and then things go nuts.
Yes.
It's just like, who's my bitch? What?
No.
No.
Insert not thy Richard into the insane.
I'm a terrible person.
The vampire doesn't realize he's wearing a collar.
Shot collar.
No, I was just thinking she's got a lot of energy.
Yeah.
The time of the month.
Yeah, I think if you wanted to do like you need to really understand like what makes a werewolf and a vampire, and kind of do a contrast between them. And figure out like how they're usually characterized and kind of turn it on its head, where maybe the vampires are like these parasites on society. They're kind of just outside of society. And the werewolves are more like a pack hunter mentality and they're able to transform at will. I guess that could be the way to make sure that you kind of keep things going in the way that you want it to. Kind of have it be like the 30 Days of Night type situation where the vampires are very much just animals. What other things could we do? What other things could we do with werewolves versus vampires?
There's a coronavirus story in there somewhere.
Oh. You know what? You're not wrong.
I'm just imagining all the coronavirus fiction that's going to come out in a few years.
Yeah, pretty much.
Authors get bored too.
There is already a coronavirus romance genre.
Oh, good God.
Co-romance.
I kid you not.
Plague Inc. has like a bunch of COVID
Well-
scenarios.
Well,
Yeah, literally, it is a bunch of COVID. Like, it is basically COVID romance genre. Like, at one point, I think there's a story about a teacher and their student, and college student and college teacher, teacher falling in love during COVID.
God, no. Well,
Well, 2020. Well, this gonna get. Well, this you're gonna get a weirder and worse.
don't say that. Well, because you know that's wrong.
I know it's 2020. It will get worse.
Yeah, feasibly.
Let's see what November has in store.
Yeah, well, we'll see. Anyway, anything else that we want to chat about with werewolves versus vampires?
Why is it always versus?
I think it's just kind of the dichotomy in a lot of
It's
ways.
human nature. Everybody wants to watch the one big monster punch the other big monster.
That's why we watch Godzilla. Well, that's why a lot of people watch Godzilla.
In fact, most people only watch Godzilla for those scenes.
And not for the characters, just for the fights.
In fact, some of them are written that way.
My God, the anime Godzilla trilogy was horrible.
I was more thinking King of Monsters. Awesome kaiju, really, really terrible people.
Yeah, and terrible movie, just period. Like, EFAP just broke down like why the character drama doesn't make sense. Though, I'm interested.
No one watched King of Monsters for the character drama.
Yeah, this is a very true statement. I will admit that.
Wait, really?
Let's
Occupation
see.
Army. I
They're both nocturnal monsters who both hurt humans, which is why they often meet and therefore fight each other. Oh, so this is a competition kind of thing. Because their prey is the same. Okay, that kind of makes sense.
Yeah, or it's like the werewolves can be like the good guys in these situations. At least I think. At least from what I've seen, the werewolf is very much they're usually like the protector class, whereas the vampires are the more predator class. At least that's my observation of the subject.
Bless you.
Bless you. Any other thoughts on why werewolves versus vampires?
I think we've covered everything.
Yep. Alrighty. So the next part is kind of story. We've kind of covered a little bit of story weaknesses, but the obstacles seem to be the full moon is a problem. And because if you go with the full moon rules, you have two options. One, you go with it and you need to really flesh out the characters in between, or you have to come up with BS rationalizations for extra werewolf transformations during that time, during in between full moons.
Or how to suppress them.
Yeah. Or like have the tension be around, okay, like trying and failure, like have a montage where it's like you could feasibly do it over several years, but if you like do it like 4 or 5 in a short amount of time within a movie, it's gonna be very, very annoying. That's a good idea. Werewolf drawbacks to full moon. Okay. Yeah. Usually werewolves versus vampires is basically clan on clan fighting instead of individual versus individual. That's actually a very good point.
That's true.
That's actually a very good point. Vampires usually want to enslave humanity, whereas werewolves are just predators. That's actually a good point.
And you can't blame the animal because you slammed it with a 2x4.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe a good twist on the head would be have the vampires be the good guys for once.
Or, well, no, werewolves are wolves, which are related to dogs. Why not have one where the werewolves protect humanity from the vampires?
That's technically how what is it?
So Overly Sarcastic Productions made this claim that there's actually a bunch of folklore in that domain, and to my dismay, I've yet to find any of it. So if that's actually a thing, let me know.
Imagine a werewolf Q killing.
Yeah, actually.
Mhm.
Actually, that's actually a very interesting idea.
Yeah, it is.
It's just that one werewolf whose name is that.
Hmm. Another problem is kind of the werewolf and the person. The werewolf usually doesn't have good characterization. At least, like, the werewolf is just a mindless animal, generally.
Which doesn't really make any sense because wolves are basically dogs, and dogs are incredibly intelligent. Because you can teach a dog to do a lot of things.
But it's just like, that's kind of the curse of the werewolf. It basically lets the wild beast out and unleashes a murderous like monster on the countryside. Usually in rural, and not generally, the vampire is a city monster, while a werewolf is an out in the countryside type beast.
That's true.
And it's usually like rural villages that have to deal with werewolves. If a werewolf is in a city, that werewolf is going to die because the police are going to quickly kill him, or quickly figure out a way to kill him.
Mm-hmm.
Which is kind of why in the, I guess to some extent, the Wolfman movie quickly got them away from London and instead started putting back in its niche place in the thing.
Like a fat pat's reason for motivation.
Oh, that would be so silly.
Hey, give me head pats before I turn.
Yeah. Lack of head pads.
Will be.
Okay, cool. I'd be cool to see that. I'm gonna have like a free for all, or at least like a free for all stream to kind of give give the stream team some rest in a couple weeks. So,
Mm-hmm.
let me think. What are some other possible obstacles to writing the werewolf other than like passive character? There's not a whole lot of motivation. There's the problem of like not really straightforward plot.
The ticking time clock is probably another one.
Yeah. And
because people just don't seem to understand how to use the ticking time clock anymore.
Well, this is
what about scrapping the clock? What if you are like full werewolf all the time and there is no shift back?
That could be very creepy.
So like, that's the entire point of the lycanthropes. There is no going back once you are one.
It would kind of depend on if you're like the mindless monsters that were the first generation in a werewolf. Underworld versus more of the Lucian where they have control over it versus the half vampire, half werewolf from that movie who has full cognizance.
Mm-hmm. I think that the main point, at least like with werewolf movies, a lot of it is kind of focused in on like the money shot of the transformation as opposed to the characterization of the werewolf. I think that's another main problem.
Yeah, the character, the transformation is always going to be part of it, but there is no reason whatsoever to not characterize the person behind the werewolf.
Mm-hmm. Especially because if you don't care about the characters, why am I going to care?
Yeah. I mean, the werewolf could be the prettiest thing ever, quote unquote. But if the writing is not solid enough, no one's gonna care.
Uh-huh. This is a good point. For very difficult, dramatic. Oh, okay. Silver bullet dramatically hurts your aiming and fire. That's actually a good point. Okay.
Oh no.
You're just shotgun with silver shells. Problem
Silver
solved.
buck.
Buckshot. Yeah, that's a good possibility.
Yeah.
That's. I think that those are the main weaknesses. Any others that you can think of?
Not really.
Alrighty. Let's move to the Q&A section. Just have we have 9 minutes or so. Oh, before I need to head out. But
do you think this is the part where you can rant?
if you want to rant, go for it. We've been you've been good. Now it's time for you to rant.
Thank you. Solid. Wolfman 2010. Not a good way to end Werewolf Week at all.
No.
Doesn't even deserve a rant.
Mhm.
Couldn't even muster the effort to be hilariously bad.
It's not entertaining bad. It's not dumb bad. It's not funny bad. It's just fucking boring bad.
Partially, the main problem is Benicio del Toro is just kind of being bland and not interesting.
Well, part of the problem is the writing they gave him.
Yeah. Well, Benicio del Toro is rarely like he was DJ in
Last Jedi.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that was also plagued with bad writing. It's not his fault.
Well, technically he's doing a bit.
He was also the collector in the MCU, so it's not just a curse on him.
Yeah. True. Favorite aspects of the Werewolf Curse. I think I like kind of just the ability to transform into a Wolfman. I think that's fun.
Yeah.
The theme of control.
I very much like the sorry, I wish you could have been on. It sounds like you've been able to add a lot to it.
I would say my favorite part is the moon and significance of it. I don't know really. I just love werewolves for some reason.
Yeah, well, you're a wolf.
Fair. Yeah, both Benicio del Toro and Hugo Weaving was in the Wolfman remake.
Wasted good actors. Yep.
Such a waste.
And also Sir Anthony Hopkins.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was very painful. It was very, very painful.
For
Very.
you.
It would be extremely painful. You're a big guy. For you.
I think I like this. I think I gotta point this one out. Warhammer Fantasy, actually. And also Warhammer 40k, just Warhammer in general. I know that there's actually in Warhammer 40k, there's a slight possibility for the Space Wolf genetics to go wrong, and
Yeah, the
turn
Wolfman.
into a werewolf.
For wolf transformation. Sure, why not? Let me find it.
Pat. And there's and then in Warhammer Fantasy, the Norse sketches are just big.
There we go.
Oh, I thought you meant Hugh Jackman digivolves to Wolfman.
Well, nihilists. Technically, the Beastmen are more like goats, or more like ghosts, minotaurs, and just generally but more like they're not like wolves. Norskins, however, in Norskins, the Norskins are essentially just fantasy Vikings. If they're somehow even more, they're Vikings, except if they were even more about the rating.
Mm-hmm.
It's like Norskins hell. Literally, it is close to hell. Like, if hell was on Earth, that'd be the Chaos Wastelands. And there's a chance for a Norskin to just randomly turn into a wolf. A werewolf. So it's common enough. And Norskins all about just fighting. And you corrupt one tribe, you get to claim their stuff as yours.
Well, I noticed how the perspective of the wolf changed, because there were Norse berserkers who would wear only wolf skin because they thought that would give them the strength of the wolf, and they were revered for it. And then turn around, Middle Ages, the wolf requires fear.
They would also howl like an animal during the berserkering rage.
The wolf, the raven, and the bear.
Yeah, like a wolf or a bear. I think I love how Lenwood Thompson puts it. They go into something called the berserkering rage. It's a 5-step program. First, like literally, he goes into it. And he's just like, first, he begins to toss off his armor as if to say, I am impervious, you cannot kill me. Then we begin to howl like an animal. Usually, Lenwood Thompson, it's his history lectures.
Let me, how do you spell that?
Lenwood Thompson, the only way you can find him is on the Great Courses. I have the DVD discs, but yeah. And like, then they begin to bite the edges of their shield so that the blood is foaming all over their beard. Then they begin to dance, like this wild dance, and just they're howling and they're naked, and the enemy is going like, I am very demoralized right now. It's crazy. And then they begin the wild charge right at the enemy. One man, maybe he's joined by a cousin. It seems this craziness ran in families.
Yeah, it's like holy crap. Wolves in ancient culture were seen very weak.
Very differently.
Yeah.
You and I remember Budapest very differently.
Yep.
You want to freak out your enemy? Take off your clothes and start acting like a wolf.
Yeah, and it's just like, it's just this crazy naked dude running toward you, or you like a nutter.
I understand how that would cause some confusion, to say the very least.
Yeah, it'd be like, is this? And then he just like, or like when it like shoot him with arrows doesn't hurt him. When they try and throw a spear at him, he catches the spear and throws it right back because that's what they're trained to do.
Man, does he have teeth or something?
No, it's actually like they would play this game called catch the spear, and they would train by throwing spears at each other, and they would catch each other's spears, but they'd start with catch the stick, and
then catch the spear.
Yep. Once they got good enough at catch the stick.
The spear is just a stick, but it can kill you.
Yeah. Well, it's just like just like you know, you would play catch with your father. We would play catch with our father. Only instead of balls, the baseball, we would play catch the spear. Now, father wasn't a completely heartless individual. We would start with stick, catch the stick. Here, Rolf, catch. Ow! Good in order to not be poked with the stick in the eye.
And this person's name is Linwood Thompson.
Yep. He's a very, very good history. He's a very cool history professor. He actually dresses up in a costume. Like instead of being like a typical like history professor where he's got like he wears a suit and tie. The only time he wears a suit and tie is for his introduction video, and only then for the first half, where he's like, I don't like wearing a suit and tie. I like putting on a costume and an accent and playing a character. Like he plays, I am Rolf the Viking, and I'm going to be talking about my culture with you today.
Yeah, those are fun lessons.
Yeah. And he also like makes frequent use of the phrase, "Und we kicked the Roman butt, and we marched across Europe, leaving Rome defenseless." Yeah, lots of fun stuff. Nice and short stream today. Let's. I think that's pretty much it. Any other final thoughts on werewolves? Before we close things out.
I wish for a story that does them right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're trying. We're trying. It's just the Hollywood kind of wants to rely on the kind of lame cliches and tropes rather than doing anything innovative with them.
There's only so much you can do using the old tropes.
Yeah.
How about instead of using the tropes, you use the actual lore?
Mm-hmm. Well, the problem is like they are kind of using the actual lore. They're just kind of using the lore in kind of stale, bland ways.
That's true.
But I think that's about cover it. That about covers it for today. Thank you everybody for coming on. Much appreciated. Thank you. Do you guys have anything that you would like to pimp, or is that pretty much like the same as it always has been?
It's the same as always.
Same as always. I just hope to get a story. I just hope to get the first chapter done so I can pimp something good.
I'm functionally retired.
Well,
I don't want to be retired yet. Not yet, please. I don't want to go out.
Oh, I wish I were retired. I wish I could just live off of my investments for the rest of my life. That'd be great.
Yeah.
Hey, please don't.
Alrighty. Well, what do you mean? Yeah,
sorry, wrong context.
Yeah. I'd love to just writing my books for the rest of my life. That'd be great. Where I could just get dividends for the rest of my life and just make money off that.
Mm-hmm.
Alrighty. Well, everybody,
done will finally be done.
Yep. See you guys later, and we will end there. Thank you. Bye.
Go.
Bye.
Go! Holy shit. Okay, we're going. Go!
Bye, guys.
Bye.